Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. You know, it's only in the streaming album bomb era where the cooldown week gets any sort of appreciation. I can't even say it was a great week here. Honestly, really does not look like it. Mostly in comparison with my pretty positive feelings about Cardi B and Nice for What last week. But considering we got J. Cole coming in from around the corner with next week and then whatever the hell Post Malone unleashes the week right after, yeah, you know what? I'll take whatever slower moments I can possibly get on the Hot 100. So yeah, let's start off with the top 10, where Nice for What by Drake reigns at the top for a second straight week. And yet what's interesting to note is how much it's behaving like a more traditional hit song than the overweight smash of God's Plan, because it was overtaken on sales this week, and while airplay is gaining in order to match the streaming, it's still not the biggest on YouTube. No, that title still goes to God's Plan, which only isn't any higher because its sales are finally dropping off, and good radio margins can't quite compensate for slipping back on streaming. And this entrenches Drake above Meant to Be by Baby Rexha featuring Florida Georgia Line at number 3, as despite better sales and ruling the radio, the streaming just isn't there to match it. Then we've got Psycho by Post Malone featuring Ty Dolla $ign at number 4, which still has radio traction and streaming, but it's also falling back on sales, although it's bound to get a resurgence with beer bongs and Bentleys dropping pretty soon. Then we've got The Middle by Zedd, Maren Morrison Gray at number 5, where any radio game seemed kind of shaky and sales sliding away as the streaming just cannot compete, and yet it was enough to rise above Look Alive by Blockboy JB featuring Drake, where the sales have plummeted and YouTube was unstable enough to hold back good radio and on-demand streaming down at number 6. Then we've got Perfect by Ed Sheeran still lodged at number 7. It's dropping in all categories yet again, but frankly, I'm thankful right now it's holding the line against Freaky Friday by Lil Dicky featuring Chris Brown up to number 8, which notched gains on streaming, YouTube, and sales because apparently America hates me. I'm not really surprised though. I Like It by Cardi B featuring Bad Bunny and J Balvin only slipping one slot to number 9 was what caught me off guard as the sales collapsed, but the streaming really held up, especially in on-demand. And finally, we got a new entry into our top 10, Chun-Li by Nicki Minaj, which rode great sales and streaming up to number 10. No idea if it will survive though when J. Cole sweeps through, but it will be interesting to see how much it'll hold traction, if at all. And on that fun note, our losers and dropouts. Now, in the latter case, most of these songs have been pretty shaky and underperforming for a while. All on Me by Devin Dawson, Tell Me You Love Me by Demi Lovato, and Broken Halos by Chris Stapleton. And to be fair, it's not like our losers are all that interesting here either, with the only ones not coming from Cardi B are Hardaway by Derez Deschanel continuing down to 100, Billy by 6ix9ine dropping at 91, and Wasted Times by The Weeknd slipping down to 76. But the rest, they're residuals from the album bomb that are sliding back, and really not quite as badly as I was expecting. And while it'll be interesting to see how much J. Cole will blow all this away, most of these songs might actually have some staying power. Sure, you're gonna lose songs like She Bad with YG down to 90, or Moneybag to 87, or Get Up 10 to 77, or Through Your Phone to 75, but Bickenhead at 68, Best Life with Chance the Rapper at 67, Ring with Kalani at 44, I Do with SZA still at 42, and Drip with Migos still in the top 40 at 33? You know what? If those last, it's gonna be more interesting. Of course, the larger story post-album bomb are the rebounds, and we had a fair few returning entries this week. Get You by Daniel Caesar and Kaliukas back at 96, This Is Me from the Greatest Showman soundtrack back yet again at 83, and Woman Amen by Dierks Bentley at 81. Of course, the reason that song returned is because of the American Country Music Awards, and there were a ton of gains for country propelled by this show. For the First Time by Darius Rucker up to 82, I Lived It by Blake Shelton up to 66, Tequila by Dan and Shay to 57, Most People Are Good by Luke Bryan up big to 43, and especially You Make It Easy by Jason Aldean up to 29, likely helped off by a boost thanks to the album. Now for the rest, well, it was a good week for Marshmello, as Every Day with Logic got a boost up to 63 off the video, and Friends with Anne-Marie rose up to 21 because apparently he had a crazy good week on streaming. Then there were the gains for Nicki Minaj, Minaj, and while we already talked about Chun-Li, Barbie Tings also saw a major surge up to 25. Finally, Booed Up by Ella Mai saw a boost to 62, mostly because it seems that she's doing really well on the radio right now, so we might want to expect this to become a hit in the upcoming weeks, so just stay tuned for more there. But now, we've got our list of new arrivals, and thank God there's only 6 this week as most of them aren't very good. Starting off with number 99, GOTTI by 6ix9ine.
Don't say BBA, change your mood, any day. Gotti, cooking up, speed it up, double guns, any gun, boot it up, molly up, break it up, cop it, then I serve it up, give it up, Gotti.
You know, there's a certain part of me that does take a certain amount of comfort that this guy doesn't seem to nearly have the same charting presence as he did before, and that he's proven just as much of a flash in the pan as I think everybody really expected. But I'll admit I wasn't expecting him to try and hop on a more auto-tune crooning that's about as synthetic as possible, try and give him some shred of greater dimension against the soothing pianos and more restrained trap snares, and yet all of it is immediately betrayed by so much of his content, which features the same sort of drug-abusing, scattershot flexing that culminates him in smacking a girl in the face with his handgun and flubbing a lot of rhymes. And while I get why this song exists, 6ix9ine is desperately trying to prove that he's not a one-trick pony right now, but I gotta ask, does anybody in 6ix9ine's target audience want him to make this? Because it's pretty crappy across the board. I'd skip it. Next up, number 89, Anybody by Young Thug featuring Nicki Minaj.
I had a suspect by the morning. I got on a meat, no pneumonia. The rats kicked me up on the podium. I had a back in my shoulder. You got a bitch if you rolling.
So apparently Young Thug wasn't going to be releasing any music in 2018, a statement which after I'm assuming somebody showed him his bank statement or social blade trends, and suddenly we got a fresh collaboration with Nicki Minaj, what do you know, who seems to be going on an offensive of her own. And am I the only one who thinks that it might not be a good idea for Young Thug to double down on an auto-tune enhanced mumble that has him nakedly flub so many rhymes as he flexes, especially when said flexing opens up with lines that he never actually killed anybody, which might kind of cut into all of his clout? Seriously, on the hook he tries to rhyme pneumonia with Folgers, and yet somehow it's not as egregious as Nicki Minaj's verse, where she just throws the rhyme scheme out the window entirely when rhyming toes with mad. Seriously, there's not even an attempt to mush it over with autotune. It's just incredibly lazy on her part. You'll wonder why I'm praising Cardi B more than her these days. And since the content's utterly forgettable, the only thing that's remotely interesting here is the blur of autotune melody and the damp synth line and an oddly crunchy trap beat, but it's nowhere close to being lush enough in order to flatter Young Thug, or sharp enough to give Nicki Minaj more to work with, because her whole sing-rapping thing on her verse did not impress me at all. So yeah, might be modestly catchy for a time, the chorus is not bad, but no, not a fan at all. Number 84, Guatemala by Swae Lee featuring Slim Jxmmi.
Wanna make love, she ain't even in denial. We can get away, maybe to Guatemala. Got me going deep, got me all in fresh water.
I'll freely admit I have no idea what Rae Sremmurd is doing with this triple album. Yes, I saw Swae Lee make a video to try and explain it. It didn't make any more sense there, let's get real here. But that's the big reason why this song is tagged as Swae Lee featuring Slim Jxmmi instead of just Rae Sremmurd. All that build-up is such a faint echo of a song. Anybody who's talked about this has highlighted how much it sounds like Unforgettable, and yet it's stark how little it resonates in comparison with that last song, which I actually still like a fair bit. Part of this I'd say is a factor on how little the hook modulates in comparison with Swae Lee's verses. But then when it does shift up a little bit for Slim Jxmmi, he tries for a very similar melodic flow and proves just how far he's fallen behind his partner. As for content, really just feels like a loose tropical hookup jam, but without serious momentum for the hook or distinctive lines, it's just really kind of forgettable. It's not really precisely bad, but let's be honest, you're not gonna remember it either. Number 73, Let Me by Zayn.
You like that too, don't you?
Then I'll take care of you
What's not to like?
for the rest of my life, for the rest of yours, for the rest of my life, for the rest of yours, for the rest of us.
I'll admit I'm surprised Zayn is charting anything at all these days, given how much his past 2 singles have really underperformed. But apparently that sophomore album is dropping this year, and that means we've got another hookup jam, but it plays to a very different territory sonically. The groove, for a change of pace, is actually anchored in a very clear liquid electric guitar line and a supple bass line, with only the snaps and snares feeling all that modern. Hell, what reminds me most of is the soft rock and R&B of the mid-80s in that ballad territory, at least until the hook comes in with a little bit more acoustic guitar and hints of trap hi-hats. And hell, for the most part, I actually pretty much like this production. It's just a shame that Zayn's falsetto and hook isn't layered in a way that takes much command of it or is all that interesting, and the lyrics feel really by the numbers for a hookup jam. I don't know, it's far from bad. It'll probably wind up being more memorable than the majority of Mind to Mind, but I'm sorry, no guarantees with that. Number 48, Cry Pretty by Carrie Underwood.
Say it's okay, you can pretty smile and just walk away, pretty much fake your way through anything, but you can't cry pretty.
So let's get this out of the way first. There's no way this song could ever be better than the Jxmmi track of the same name, but if Carrie Underwood was looking to get me on her side regardless, seeing that she herself has production credits on this song and recruited Lori McKenna to co-write it, those were big steps in that direction. And the subject matter was more personal than Carrie Underwood has approached in a while, tying back to a bad fall she had at home where she had to get 40 to 50 stitches on her face, and how you really can't make grief or pain like that look good in the mainstream eye. And while I'm not really crazy about the power ballad, the lyrical cadence can feel a little halting, a little bit stiff. The big pop country guitars go broad in a way on the hook that I feel might be a little bit oversold in comparison with the verses. But I also can't deny that if Carrie Underwood needed to make a raw confessional song like this to come to grips with everything, this connects pretty well, and she's certainly singing her heart out in order to sell it. I respect that. I can't say I would put it among her best singles or even among her best power ballads, but it's pretty well done. I respect that. Good job. And finally, number 24, ESSKEETIT by Lil Pump.
Got a new car, got a new bitch, and I got a new deal. Only way to sign is skid it. Popping out the rave and skid it. Smashing on your bitch and skid it. Run to the check with no limit. Popping on X, popping on X, popping on X pills. Got a new car, got a new bitch, and I got a new deal.
Honestly, what is there even to say about this or Lil Pump at this point? Sure, he's rapping a little bit faster on his second verse, and the synths are more bouncy and blaring and kind of annoying, and it's so over the top in its flexing of drugs and brand names that nobody can really take it seriously. Hell, it doesn't even have the same lyrical issues that made Gucci Gang so exasperating for me. But there's no way around how it's just not interesting in any way, and Lil Pump's more aggressive flow can feel increasingly clumsy the more listens you give it, with barely enough melody or intensity as a vocalist to feel all that potent. And just as a whole, if this was delivered by any other no-name rapper besides the guy who did Gucci Gang, this would probably flop. And frankly, I don't have high expectations for this either. Just saying. But yeah, that's our week, and wow, it was pretty mediocre. Best, really, it can only go to Cry Pretty by Carrie Underwood. With the worst, yeah, GOTTI by 6ix9ine, and that seems pretty undeniable, fans or regardless. Next up, a whole lot of J. Cole, but at least we'll get Ariana Grande in the middle of it, so thank God for that. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse.